In today's Sunday solution, we're going to tell you how we fixed our dreaded brake light issue.
It's time
For another Sunday solution.
Let's go.
But those who've been following along our channel noticed we were having an issue with our brake lights. I mentioned in a couple videos. And I'll put a video in on what they were doing. But basically, the turn signals would light all three lights, including the reverse light. This side was really bright, and the passenger side would do the same thing. It was really dim though. So all three, they're dual filament, they're both brake light and turn signal on both the top and the bottom bulbs on both sides. And then you have reverse light in the middle. It's 2014 33AA. So my first inclination, I gotta crawl in here, was when we were in, I don't remember where we were, but it was raining. It was bad. We were driving through the rain for 3 or 4 days on the way out west here. So right away I said, everything's working. So let me check the ground. So down here is how Tiffin does it. At least, and I got this from Freightliner. The main harness comes in from the chassis right here. So this is the main harness coming in from Freightliner. Comes to this plug. Tiffin comes off this plug, and they go up and they Y it. And in that Y, they pull the ground for the taillights. So the first thing I did was I pulled this ground, and I dremeled it off, cleaned up the ground, put it back together. And I didn't get any change. So I was kind of baffled because I thought for sure it was a ground issue because everything's lighting. It just was real dim on this side and okay brightness on this side, but the reverse lights were coming on. So the next thing I did is I pulled these tail lights out because a lot of people, and I can't see it from this side, said those 3 sockets go bad, and they were telling me check those sockets. Also to run a test light on them, pull one bulb at a time, see if that changes anything. I did that, changed nothing. So I then took this main plug apart, cleaned it up with put some dielectric grease in there, checked it first, and it was clean. So you got to everybody should carry a tube of this. I use the CRC dielectric grease, and I'll put a link in for it. I got this tube. This is my second tube since I've owned the coach. I threw the first tube away when it was about half full because I had lost the cap and it was shooting out and got messy. So I dumped it. Should have never done that. So I bought this second tube when I was having these issues. And so I was at a loss. And one thing I should note, you pull these tail lights out, and I was really pissed about this. These aren't the original screws. These are actual bigger screws. Tiffin used self-tapping screws there, which is absolutely ridiculous. And, don't get me wrong. I love my coach. Bob Tiffin's a great guy and all. But some things that they cut corners on are absolutely mind-blowing. So I don't know if you can see in there. Where those screws come in, it's just fiberglass. That's all it is. There's no wood. There's nothing. It's self-tapping screw in the fiberglass. So what happened was, I'm at a campground. It's pouring rain. I'm trying to figure this out. And I go to put the taillights back in. Of course, like every other self-tapping screw, they strip out. So I'm like, now what am I going to do? And I was ranting and raving about this in another video because I was just about pissed off. I was ready to take this thing down and trade it in. That's how mad I was at Miss Betty, because It's like every screw you put in there strips out. Luckily, I had these screws. They're also self-tapping, and they're stainless, and I had 4 of them. So I was able to, a little bit bigger in diameter, I was able to get them back in. The only other option I could have had is I would have had to run to Home Depot and get some long bolts and through bolt these with washers and nuts, like nylock nuts or something like that. But these have been holding up. They're solid in there. So I had to take the bikes off today. I had to take the bike rack off so I can get up in here. It's actually on here now. I probably could have done it without it, but I didn't know how involved this was. I was going to get into checking the splice down here where the Y is that Tiffin put in and start working my way to where all the splices. I had already fixed the splices up there that Tiffin had put in, which were falling apart. They didn't even heat shrink the connectors. They just butt connected them, and they were flopping around. They looked like crap. But I redid them, and I heat shrunk them like you're supposed to, you know. But it's all about time with these coach builders. They don't care. They just slap them together as fast as they can and throw them out the door. And let's face it, most people don't full time in their coaches. They drive them 1 or 2 times a year, 3 times a season, and that's it. And then they park them. But so here's what happened. I got lucky. Okay, and I'll show you another thing. I talked to Freightliner because I read in the forums. I do a lot of reading, obviously, because I'm not good with electrical stuff. I really am. I can run a test light and a little bit with a multimeter, but everybody was telling me the PDM was bad. So I came in here before I read that, and I found one of these wires was this one here. I thought it was maybe a ground, but this was loose. I just wiggled them like that, and it moved. So I tightened that up, and I thought I had solved it, but I did. Now, the PDMs, this is called a power distribution module. These fuses are all in here for your stop and turn. Plus, it runs your front air conditioner on the rig. Typically, when they go bad, everything I read is you'll lose one tail light or the other, and you can't get them to work. And obviously, I went through and checked all the fuses too. So I talked to Freightliner, and he's like, yeah, I don't really think it's that. It sounds more like you got a ground issue, or where they wide, where Tiffin put the Y in. There's some kind of issue there, but what it sounds like, because typically you'll lose one light or you'll lose your air conditioner. So if you're having issues with your taillights and all your fuses are good, make sure you go to Freightliner and they'll run a test on your PDM. And look, I got a visitor. He came in. Oh, Woody, what are you doing down there, bud? Huh? Anyway, so I said they're $1,300. Now my extended warranty would have covered that, and I had brake lights. Everything worked fine on the Toad, I should say. My Toad worked fine. It was just a coach, and it was doing what I tell you. And like I said, I'll have a video in the link. You'll see a video of it. It was really mind-blowing to me. So this morning, I took it all apart. I took the bike rack off, and I said, you know what? This side is dim, the driver's side. I said, let me start with that. So I turned the hazards on. And I came down here, and there's a plug here. It's a 4-pin plug that runs into the harness and goes across. Ties into the Y. I pulled the plug apart. I went over to the driver's side. They were fine. I said, let me try something. Maybe I'll get lucky here. I plugged it back in together real tight. Boom. Perfect. Worked great. That was the problem. This 4-pin plug I just zip tied it here. It's not tight, so it can move, but they had it just hanging in here, and apparently the connection got loose in here, or got bad connection, or maybe even got some moisture in it. I don't know. So I tried it a couple times. I said, man, I think I'm on to something. Put my dielectric grease in there, plugged her back up, and I'll go up and turn them on. You can see. Hopefully it doesn't embarrass me, but they work great. And I left them on. I left them on for about a half an hour, and they're still working fine. I think it was a bad connection going on, and that's what was causing it, not the ground. And we'll see. Let me go turn them on and I'll get right back to you. Okay, well, there we go. So as you can see, they're both lighting, they're bright. The reverse lights are not on like they were earlier. And they're both the same. Okay, so I'll just stand back. And I already checked the brake lights, but it was doing it on both. It was doing it on the brake lights and the turn signals or 4-ways. So the moral to the story is, a lot of times, not always, it's stupid stuff on these things. It's easy stuff. And I was so pissed off. For 3 days, I was mad driving. I was like, I've had it with this thing. I'm going to go buy a 5th wheel. I'm just, every day I take it out, something happens, and I was mad. I get set off pretty quick because the main reason was I was at a loss, to be honest with you. I had no idea what I was dealing with. I thought it was a ground, but when I changed the ground and tightened it up, I didn't see any improvement. So there you have it. It's done. It's working. And sometimes I've read that sometimes those plugs go bad, and sometimes the plugs in the bulb sockets will go bad and they'll cause a short. So we're going to try it when we go to our next stop, and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this Sunday solution. If you did, give us a like and a subscribe, and hit us up on the super thanks if you can help out, if it helps you out. So that's it. We'll see you in the next one.